Oh, you caught me reading my new book, Anne Hillerman, Lost Birds. Did you ever get so involved in a book that you didn't notice your surroundings? Maybe the restaurant was getting ready to close, or your husband came in and said goodnight and you never even heard him. You have all these things happen, or maybe dinner's burning on the stove. You got so involved in your book, or your meal got cold because you got so involved in your book. Do you like it when you get lost in your books? It was awesome. It was a quick read. This book engaged me so much and drew me in so much that I just ran through it in a couple of hours. It was so good. Two readings. One started before dinner, finished after dinner, and it was hard to put it down at dinner, but I didn't want to, get the book messy. So, anyways, welcome to the D. Louise book series. It's nice to meet you. I'm Christina Carrios, This is where we read books and we talk about books. And if you could please hit the like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. If you could check out, I'm a series person. All those books up there are series, and we're going to be going through them later. But I do Star Trek Next Generation recaps every single Friday. Like I said, I'm a series person. I go for character progression. I also do If Then on Fridays. If you like this author, then maybe you like that author. We started out with the Julia Quinn's Bridgertons. If you like those, then you should definitely like Stephanie Lawrence Sinsters and Joanna Lindsay's Mallory's. And I also did Forensics, if you like Kathy Reichs and Patricia Cornwell and that whole group. We recently did the FBI group, and we did vampires. We did werewolves. We're going to be doing a different one later on, shifters. So, yes, ma'am. We've got a lot of if-thens out there, almost 20 of them so far. So if you could please check that out. And also, please check out FlashBack Monday, where we talk about all the books in this magazine, or a good portion. This one did 286. And I start with 2010. I'm going through 2016, and then I'm going to go back and do specials. But I've been getting carried away with the last couple. I did 70 in one. I did 60 books in the other. So if you're looking for mystery, romance, historicals, suspense, contemporary romance, harlequins, paranormals, please check out FlashBack Monday. And, of course, my daily book reviews, where we talk about books. And this is a special. We are currently reading J.R. Ward's Black Dagger Brotherhood and Victoria Thompson's Gaslight series with Sarah Brandt and Frank Malloy. And we are reading James Patterson's Alex Cross series. But this book came in, so I took a break from those others to read this one. And we will get back to those tomorrow. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I want to do a video, and I've told all the cats in the house that I need them to meow on camera, and they all just sit there and look at me. That's what I get. Silence. Like, hey, I need a good meow because I want to do a vid. And they all just sit there. Turn the camera off, they meow like crazy. They're talkers, but not in this house. I'm not as talented as Penny and Amy. God, they got over 1 million followers, that group. I watch those videos all the time. And Charlie, too. I like Charlie's videos, too. Yes, ma'am. Can I get to my book with you? You want to talk about my book? She was in my lap for most of it, too. So, this book, we have our three. We have Joe LEAPHORN, who's retired from the police department, and if you didn't see, please go check out my Navajo, my Native American Indian detective, If Then. And I've discovered I've missed a couple. So I may do another one down the road. But I gave a whole slew, and then I found two massively good ones after it. And I was really like, I didn't even think to look for this other one. So, we haven't seen him in a while. Him and his wife went to Hawaii on a little bit, well, not his wife, his companion, I guess you want to call her. She refuses. He asked her to marry him in the book, before the book, and she said no, but she wants to still live together. So he was a little upset with that. So he's dealing with that, and Chee and Bernie are dealing with her mom. Her mom is getting into the Alzheimer's dementia stage there. You can ignore, I've had relatives and it was Alzheimer's. I'm telling you, it's Alzheimer's. And they're like, oh no, it's dementia. They just didn't like the word Alzheimer's. They absolutely refused to say Alzheimer's. They called it dementia. Until she forgot who they were, forgot how to care for herself, forgot how to eat, how to chew, how to do anything. It was the most horrendous thing to watch and the saddest thing. Now, on one hand, you have to think about the fact that because she wasn't aware of the situation, then it was okay. But we had to watch it happen. And that was pretty sad, that we actually had to watch it happen. And she ended up starving to death. Because I don't know what the difference is between, I know people in two different places, and one place will give them Ensure and give them IV fluids, but the place that this other relative was did nothing to assist her at all, and she starved to death. So I don't know well, of course, the other place, the person is still there mentally, so that may be the biggest, hugest difference. But anyways, let's get back to our book. Oh, I lost my glasses. So, Chee and Bernie are dealing with her new situation at work. I'm still disappointed that, and I'm sure she's disappointed that she was passed over for the promotion. So I had to double check that one. But so, and then of course her mother is going through the stuff, and her sister is drinking again, and her sister feels that she's under a lot of pressure to try and do all these things. So her sister's having issues too. So we start the book with Joe. Oh, before I forget, spoilers. Lots and lots of spoilers. Gotta get that out of the way. I won't spoil the whodunit, but everything else you get. Because I'm in it for the characters. I'm in it for the character progressions. So, I remember this book. It's been a while, but I remember this book being, not this book, but this particular incident. I remember this incident from a previous book. But he gets woken up early in the morning by Cecil Bowlegs. Remember me? I'm glad I finally able to get in touch with you. Among his growing list of pet peeves, LEAPHORN had an asterisk on any question that started with remember. The man on the phone didn't wait for LEAPHORN to say, no, I don't remember you. I understand that you are a private investigator. That's why I'm contacting you now. I need some help. First, tell me how I know you. LEAPHORN wondered how the number he never gave out except to friends and fellow officers, had gotten into Cecil's hands. We met a long time ago, sir. I was just a boy. You worked a case that involved my older brother, George Bowlegs, years ago. When George ran away, you were kind to me. You gave me your card and you wrote this number on the back. I tried the station number first and they told me you had retired, but that you sometimes help people with investigations. Why are you calling now, though? It's too early. Make it quick. My wife is missing. She's been missing for almost 3 weeks. We've looked for her, got the police involved. They seem to have given up on our case. He rattled off her age, height, weight, and the fact that she had a blue eagle tattoo on her left wrist. I called you because I don't know what else to do, because you found my brother, I thought. So they go on to discuss that a little bit, and then they're in the middle of talking, and the phone call gets interrupted by an explosion, and the phone line goes down, and that's the end of it. So Joe immediately is calling all these different people and trying to talk to the case. Then we have Bernie has a new boss at work, and I don't think he likes her very much, and he wants her out investigating wild dogs attacking sheep. So she goes out to do that, but in the middle of that, she gets a call from the FBI. They want her to help out with the bombing at the school. So, and then in the meantime, Joe gets another phone call. He was hired. Well, no, he was hired a couple of weeks ago. This is like off stage situation. If it happens on the page, then it's on stage. But if you're told about it as of happening, that means it happened off stage. So apparently this lady had hired Joe, and she absolutely refuses to do a DNA test. And she doesn't want her third and fifth and 25 cousins coming forward out of the woodwork. She just wants to find out who her biological parents are. And I was thinking, but if she just put it in a local database, if she went to the hospital and had the DNA kept locally and just checked locally in the New Mexico area, who may or may not be, it might have worked out better. But she was really massively insistent, and I didn't like her tone at some points with Joe. That it would have just made life so much easier for Joe and everybody else if she'd just done the DNA thing. It made me feel like she was hiding something, or, but she wasn't. She was just adamant that she just didn't want her DNA out there. And it just made me, I was suspicious of her, but it wasn't anything like that, but that's just how it made me feel suspicious. And it didn't turn out that way. And then we've also got a personal situation. Louisa, the lady that turned down Joe in Hawaii, who's been living with him, all of a sudden she gets a phone call from her estranged son. They haven't spoken in many, many years, and Louisa has a massive case of the guilt. Now, her son abandoned her. He left. It was his choice not to communicate with her. It was his choice, all this kind of stuff. And she's the one that feels guilty, and she shouldn't. She's reaching out to him. She's doing her part, and he's ignoring her. So it's not her fault, but she believes it is her fault, and that's her mental attitude going through this whole thing, that it's her fault, and it's not right. It isn't her fault. So her son shows up, and he's very, very angry. It turns out not only does he have a mental illness, but he has cancer too. And he's just all over her, like yelling at her, white on rice type situation, and she doesn't deserve it. But she's just got such a massive case of the guilt. It just goes off the handrails. So I'll leave you with that on that situation, because it does get really bad. But the lady that wants Joe to find her birth parents because she discovered she knew she was adopted, but she never really gave it any thought until after her parents deceased, and she found a picture and a little bracelet. So LEAPHORN is talking to Chee and asking for his help running background checks and stuff like that because Chee is still with the department and still has access to all that stuff. And they start talking about this law that took a place in the 70s. Did she come to you because she thinks she's a lost bird? Right. Lost birds. That was the name for children who had been removed from their homes in Navajo land or on other reservations by the government or stolen by private adoption bureaus. The name came from the translation of the name of the Lakota Zinkalanunai, lost bird in English. As an infant, she was found alive on the battlefield following the 1890 massacre at the Wounded Knee and adopted by a white general. She read back the names and the spelling. What else do you know about the Browns? And he does an investigation and he tries to help and he doesn't find anything. And apparently they had changed their names around the same time as the adoption. So they believe there might be something hinky going on there. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Can I get you to do that on camera? Can I get a close-up of you meowing? I want to do a vid, but I need everybody to give me a meow like answering a question. It ain't gonna work. They are so not gonna cooperate. So Joe does his investigation, and he goes to a library, and they have the woman had a photograph, and it was like it was almost a professional photograph, and they find out that this artist was a professional photographer. Well, not professional. He took these great photos and he made a book out of them, and the book is being sold places. And it ended up in the library. This was way back in the 70s, so there are probably no new copies that they know of. So they had to go, and it's locked up in a case because it was considered valuable. And Joe eventually gets access to the book and goes through it, and he finds the name of the artist. And then he goes to he tries to talk to the chick all throughout the book about the DNA test and all that other kind of stuff. But I don't think I really need to do much more. But so we've got the two cases. We've got Bowlegs and his wife missing, and Bowlegs himself runs into trouble. There's somebody trying to kill him too. There's another background thing going on. There's a twist at the end, a revelation at the end that I will leave secret. And we've also got Stella. How does she find a relative? Who is the relative she finds? Does she have any closure? Will she ever do a DNA test? That's just something that we're going to have to, it's left to your imagination of what happens there. So, but those are your core stories. Joe Bowlegs, he goes on the run. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. What do you want? Goes on the run after the bombing, and his wife is still missing, and we have the mama situation, and we have the sheep situation, and we have the Stella situation, looking for the lost relatives. So those are your mysteries in this book. It was a really good book. It held my attention. We do get quite a bit of character progression, and we don't know what's going to happen with Bernie. I hope she gets a promotion at some point. I hope maybe she decides to do some FBI stuff that would give her more money, because they're going to need it, because they're going to have to build up on the house for all the stuff that's going to happen. And I'm looking forward to the next book to find out what happens. I like series where we have character progression from book to book to book, but we also solve a mystery. Those are my favorite. And I really enjoyed this book. So I hope you will go check out my Native American If Then, and my Flashback Mondays, and my Star Trek Fridays, and my daily book reviews. And I hope you enjoyed this book as much as I did, or will go check it out. Because it's about a girl who gets the adoption. Oh, I did want to read this little part at the end here. The she explains some stuff, but she said the idea for Lost Birds, my ninth book about these characters, was born from the possibility that the U.S. Supreme Court might overturn the Indian Child Welfare Act (ICWA). In its decision in June 2023, the court let the law stand to the relief of the indigenous communities throughout the United States. Congress designed the law to protect Indian children against the possible removal from their tribal communities. Before the ICWA, up to a third of Native children in need of adoptive or foster care were placed in non-Native homes or sent to boarding schools. One of these goals of the placement was to ensure that the children assimilated into mainstream culture. Congress created the ICWA and passed it with little opposition in 1978 in response to the tribes protesting the removal of these children. They argued strongly that practice erased the child's tribal heritage. The ICWA set standards and requirements designed to keep Indian children with extended tribal families. The Supreme Court announced a 7-2 decision upholding the decades-old law. Native Americans, including Navajo, celebrated the reaffirmation of their sovereignty against threats from states and governments. So that was why she did this book, and that law rides the 1970 thing is mentioned quite often, but that's what Stella's situation in. Oh, and her birth certificate also turns out to be a little on the false side too. So that opened up a whole bunch of suspicions. Maybe she was kidnapped or something like that, but it turns out it was not the case at all. But I hope you will enjoy this book. I did. It was really good, and I enjoyed it. And I hope I didn't mess it up too much for you, but I like sharing. I like sharing the books with you. Have a good one.